You have one on your phone, in your games, in the little circle at the top of every account you own, your avatar. Small picture that takes your place. But look at what that word used to mean. A few hundred years ago, in another language, avatar meant a god coming down to earth in a real body, not a picture of you, a god. Somehow that turned into your profile photo. This is a story of how. The word is Sanskrit, avatara. Break it in two, ava means down, tara comes from a root that means to cross over. Put them together and you get a crossing down, a descent. But a descent of what? Oh, of a god. A god leaving the world it lives in and stepping into this one. Taking a body, walking around, getting hungry, feeling pain. In Hindu belief, the god Vishnu does this. When the world falls into trouble, he comes down. Every time in a different form. Once as a fish, another time as a turtle, yet again once as a man named Rama, once as Krishna. Each of these is a avatara, a god who crossed down into a body to set something right. So the word carried real weight. It was about rescue and sacrifice, and a bridge between heaven and the ground underneath your feet. The word reached English around 1784. British scholars and officials living in India were reading Sanskrit text, and they carried words home. Avatar was one of them. For the next 200 years, English kept the old meaning, a god in human form. You would find the word in books about religion and myth, but almost nowhere else. Then it crossed one more time into machines. Here's the part most people get wrong. You would expect the man who pulled this sacred word into a video game to be careless, to grab it because it just sounded like a cool name. But he was the opposite. In 1985, a game designer named Richard Garriott was building a game about right and wrong, and he wanted the player to be judged for what they actually did inside it, not some hero he wrote for you. Your own choices. So he needed a word for a real person stepping into a game and being held responsible there. He read old Hindu holy books called the Vedas, and he found avatara, a god who takes a body and walks the earth, and he knew exactly what it meant. That's why he chose it. His game was called Ultima 4, a quest of the avatar, and the whole point of the game was to become one. A year later, other designers building an early online world used the same word for the little figure each player controlled. That's the meaning you know now, the body you put on to enter another world. Then in 1992, a novel called Snow Crash carried the word to everyone. Games, chat rooms, and forums. The writer thought he had invented the word himself, but he learned later that others had used it before him. That same novel gave us one more word you have heard a lot lately, metaverse. From there, the word went everywhere. Profile pictures, a very large blue film by the same name, the circle at the top of your screen. So who emptied the word? Well, not the scholars. They kept the meaning for 200 years. And not the game designer. He chose it because of the meaning. The word was worn down, really, by all of us, one profile picture at a time. That's what millions of small uses do to a big word. A word that meant a god choosing to suffer alongside people now means a photo you change when you're bored. Is that wrong? Well, I'm not sure it is. Every language borrows, always. That's how living languages work. English is made mostly of other people's words. The question is not whether you borrow. The question is what happens to the meaning after you do. Sometimes the meaning travels with the word. You take it, you know what it held, and some of the weight stays, but sometimes only the outside travels. You keep the sound and you leave the meaning behind. Avatar, and most of how we use it now, is the second kind. Sacred word kept for its sound, emptied of what it held. So you don't have to feel bad about it, but it's worth knowing. Every time you upload a photo of yourself, you're using a word that once meant a god came down to save the world. And this connects to where you are living right now. If you're like me, living here in the Philippines, you're surrounded by borrowed Sanskrit words that went the other way, words that kept their way. This is old. The oldest piece of writing ever found in these islands is a small copper plate from around the year 900. Already that far back, it carries words borrowed from Sanskrit. More than 1,000 years ago, these words were already here. Mukha, for example, it means face. It comes straight from the Sanskrit word for face. People say it 100 times a day and never think about where it came from. or Diwata, a spirit of the forests and the mountains, something close to a goddess. It traces back to the Sanskrit Devata, which means God. So think about that last one again. Devata meant a god, and then it crossed the sea into these islands, and it stayed something close to a god. Avatara meant a god. It crossed into a machine and became a picture. Same beginning, but two different endings. None of this means you should stop saying avatar. Say it. I say it too, but maybe once when you set that little picture, you remember what the word used to mean. A god who looked at a broken world and decided to come down. My name is John. This is Crossbuilt. Thank you for watching.